Alright, so what I want to do is I want to talk about how to solve a quadratic. And again, a quadratic is where the highest exponent is 2. But how to solve it using the quadratic formula. But before we actually get into the entire formula, I want to talk about something called the discriminant. And I probably spelled that wrong, no big deal. And the discriminant tells me how many solutions my problem has. And I'll explain why later. But the discriminant tells me if I have one solution, two solutions, or two imaginary solutions. And so we'll talk about that in a minute. So the discriminant of a problem is b squared minus 4ac. And you'll see why this tells us what the solutions are when we actually do the quadratic formula. And I'll talk about that then. So I'm actually just going to take these, I have 3 problems here, and I'm going to find the discriminant of those problems. Now, you may be asking, well, what is B, what is A, and what is C? Well, when we have the problem set up like this, so notice I have it set equal to 0, you cannot solve a problem by using a quadratic formula unless it's set equal to 0. If it's not set equal to 0, we have to move some things to make it set equal to 0. And actually what I'll probably do is when I actually go through the quadratic formula, I'll kind of do a problem where it's not equal to 0 to kind of show you what I mean. But the A value is always the number in front of the x squared. So in this case, you could say the A value is 1. Okay, there's an imaginary 1 there. Your B value is always the one in front of x. So in this case, my B value is -4. Notice I have to take that negative with it. And C is always the constant, meaning it's the number without an x. So in this case, this is the only one without an x. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug those numbers into this formula. So b squared, now watch what I do here. B squared, notice I put -4 in parentheses. If you're going to plug it in the calculator, that is super important. Make sure you put it in parentheses. Minus 4ac. So notice I'm just plugging in the values a, b, and c into the problem that way. Now you can plug this into the calculator, or you can just simplify it like this. -4 squared, so -4 times -4 is 16, minus 4 times 1 is 4, times 4 is 16. 16 minus 16 is 0. Okay, now this is important. If the discriminant is 0, that means we only have one solution. Now that doesn't mean the solution is 1, so 1 is not the solution, but it's only telling me the number of solutions. So I know for this problem there's only one solution to this problem. Generally with quadratics there's 2 solutions, but when the discriminant is 0, that tells me there is one solution. So let's do another problem. So again, the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. 2 is my a value, -3 is my b value, and -5 is my c value. So I'm just going to plug it in. So b squared minus 4ac. Alright, -3 squared is 9, because remember -3 times -3 is 9. And then we have minus 4 times 2 is 8, times -5 is, oh man, can't do my math here, 40, or -40. Now if I'm subtracting a negative, that's really 9 plus 40, which is 49. Now if my discriminant is positive, so this was 0. If it's positive, then that means I have 2 real solutions. And I stress the real because if the discriminant is negative, that means I have 2 imaginary solutions. So let's look at this one. So again, b squared minus 4ac is the discriminant. This would be a, b would be 1, and c would be 1. So b squared minus 4ac, and I'm writing kind of fast, so excuse my sloppy handwriting. 1 squared is 1 minus 12, which is -11. So notice my discriminant is negative, which means I have two imaginary solutions. And again, you'll see why this is when we actually get to doing the quadratic formula. But I just want you to get that when you're doing the discriminant helps you know what type of solutions. And actually, I'll just go ahead and explain it real quick why. So let me write down the quadratic formula here real quick. Here's the entire quadratic formula. We have negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, that's the quadratic. Well, you said equals x, but that's the quadratic formula. And what you'll notice is this right here is the discriminant. And so the reason this is important, so if this number is negative, that means I'm taking the square root of a negative number. Now, if you remember back in regular sort of arithmetic, you can't take the square root of a negative number. And so that's why we get imaginary solutions when this is negative. When this is positive, we get two real solutions because we can take the square root of a positive number. Now, when this is 0, we get one solution. And the best way to explain why that is to actually work out a problem, which I will do in just a minute. So the discriminant is actually in the quadratic formula, and it's helpful to know that first.